Something's wrong with your chameleon, and it's not just that it's a sleepy reptile. You walk past the enclosure at noon, and there it is again, eyes closed, slumped on a branch, barely reacting. You tap the glass lightly. Nothing. Maybe one lazy eye opens, then shuts again. People tell you, reptiles just chill a lot, or he's probably fine. They're not like dogs. But deep down, it doesn't feel fine. It feels off, and you can't quite explain why. So you start doing what most careful owners do. You mist more. You add another plant. You offer a favorite feeder. You worry maybe you're just overthinking it. But every day you catch the same scene. Daytime sleep, slow movements, less interest in food. And the tension is this. Your effort is going up, while your chameleon's energy is going down. Let's walk through what's really happening here. Slowly, clearly, so this starts to make sense instead of feeling like a guessing game. You might start by blaming the most obvious thing. Maybe he's just tired from staying up at night. Or maybe they sleep more as they get older. Or even, maybe this species is just lazier than I thought. So you experiment in small ways. You move the enclosure slightly. You adjust the misting schedule. You try different feeders. Crickets, roaches, worms. You read a couple of forum threads where half the comments say, totally normal, and the other half say, vet. Now, the more you read, the more confusing it gets. Someone says it's dehydration. Someone else insists it's stress. Another person blames the UVB. One more says, they all do that sometimes. Meanwhile, your chameleon is still closing its eyes during the day, which, for a healthy chameleon, is not typical behavior. They are supposed to be alert, scanning, watching the world. So you're stuck between two uncomfortable thoughts. Am I overreacting? And what if I'm ignoring something serious? This is where frustration starts to build quietly. It's not dramatic. It's a slow drip of doubt. You're doing things, you care, but the result doesn't match the effort. And the reason it feels so disproportionate is that most of the real problem is invisible. From the outside, you see one thing, daytime sleeping. But under the surface, there are layers. Light, heat, hydration, stress, nutrition, and time. They don't shout. They just quietly shift your chameleon's whole system out of balance. At first, you might latch on to simple explanations. Maybe it's just a little cold. Or maybe the lights are too bright. Those are surface level. Temperature and light are obvious, so we start there. But then you realize it's not just hot versus cold. It's where the heat is. Is there an actual basking spot in the right range? Is there enough difference between the warm spot and the rest of the enclosure so the chameleon can choose? Then you look at light, and it gets more complex. It's not just UVB or no UVB. It's distance from the bulb, age of the bulb, strength of the bulb, whether there's a screen between the bulb and the chameleon. Too little UVB can lead to weakness and lethargy. Too much can cause discomfort and stress. Then there's hydration. You might see droplets on leaves and think, okay, I'm misting, so that part is fine. But chameleons don't drink like mammals. They don't drink from bowls. They drink from moving water, from droplets, on their own schedule. If the humidity is off, the misting is poorly timed, or the enclosure doesn't dry out properly, you can end up with a chameleon that is dehydrated or stressed, even while the plants look soaked. And that's before we even touch on things like internal parasites, respiratory infections, or vitamin imbalances from supplements. Those are almost entirely invisible to the naked eye until they're advanced, and one of the earliest subtle signs can be unusual lethargy and daytime sleep. So on the surface, you see one symptom, sleeping during the day. But underneath, you have an entire setup, a system that either supports that animal or slowly wears it down. Here's where the shift really happens. The real issue isn't that your chameleon is just tired. It's that the system around your chameleon is slightly out of alignment. Once you see it that way, the whole situation changes. It's not about blaming yourself for bad care. It's about recognizing that chameleons are extremely sensitive to configuration, not just individual actions. You can be feeding good insects, misting regularly, and truly caring, and still have one or two structural pieces off. UVB that's too weak, a basking temperature that's too low or too high, a lack of airflow, or a supplement routine that's unbalanced. From the chameleon's point of view, those small misses add up. They don't tap you on the shoulder and say, "Excuse me, my calcium is a bit low and my kidneys are not thrilled." They just start moving less, eating less, sleeping more during the day. It looks like laziness. It feels like sleep. But it's often the body conserving energy because the environment isn't quite right, or because there's an underlying health issue. So instead of asking, "Why is my chameleon so sleepy?" a more useful question becomes, what in this setup or in this animal's health could be quietly draining its energy? That perspective does two important things. First, it takes the pressure off you as a person. This is not about whether you care enough. Care is obvious. You're here, you're watching, you're worried. Second, it moves the focus from random tweaks, fiddling with one thing at a time and hoping, to looking at the whole configuration as a system. You're not trying to force the chameleon to be more disciplined or active. You're trying to build a stable environment where normal behavior becomes the default. Practically, this means slowing down and assessing instead of rushing to fix everything at once. You start with the basics. Is this chameleon normally active during the day, and suddenly it's not? Has appetite changed? Has the poop changed? Any wheezing, gaping, or odd body posture? Is this species care being matched in lighting, temperature gradients, and humidity? Not just roughly, but with real numbers from a thermometer and hygrometer. You look at the lighting age and distance. You check basking temps with a reliable thermometer instead of guessing by touch. You pay attention to whether the enclosure fully dries between misting sessions. You remember that supplements are powerful tools, and both too little and too much can cause real problems over tea. And in parallel with that, you keep in mind, daytime sleeping in chameleons is often a red flag, not a personality quirk. So when in doubt, especially if the behavior is new or worsening, you treat it as a possible health issue and involve a qualified reptile vet. Not as a last resort, but as part of taking the animal seriously. This isn't about chasing a perfect setup overnight. It's about understanding that your chameleon's energy level is a reflection of the system it's living in, plus its internal health, not a random mood. If you want to go deeper into that system, lighting, temperature gradients, hydration patterns, and how they interact, there's a structured breakdown linked in the description that lays out the main pieces without overwhelming you. If you find this kind of clear, structural explanation helpful, and you're caring for reptiles or thinking about it, consider subscribing so you can keep building that understanding step by step. Take your time, adjust thoughtfully, and let your chameleon's behavior guide what you look at next.